Hello, I'm joined by my good friend Scott Sedam today to talk about the ever-present problem of trade shortages. Over the past 14 years, Scott and his TrueNorth colleagues have run more than 220 week-long lean implementation workshops with home builders in 40 states and 5 countries, and in the process have worked with nearly 5,000 supplier trade companies. They've listened as the trades describe what they want, what really makes a difference, how they decide which builders they will work with, and importantly, which will get their best crews. In today's market, that's the difference between getting your homes built at a profit with solid quality or not. So Scott, we're here today to talk about this ever-present problem of trade shortages, and it is a big problem. But in our June issue, you write that some builders are feeling the labor crunch and others are not. In fact, you say the trade shortage, and I quote, is one of the greatest opportunities in the past 30 years for a builder to establish true competitive advantage. How so?
Well, every builder will tell you they're the best. I remember once at PCBC, and I asked the builders from Fresno to stand up because I recognized a couple of them, and there were 5 of them stand up. And I said, okay, and all you guys tell me, among the 5 of you, who's the best builder in Fresno? And, of course, each of them claimed they were. And I said, well, you can't all be. You all know each other. Come on, I'll give you a minute, figure it out. Who's the best? And, every builder thinks, all things considered, price, value, what they do. Okay, we're the best. We're the best. And it's really hard to differentiate yourself. So when an opportunity comes along like this, where there's a real shortage, where everyone's fighting for the trades of labor and supply of materials, what can you do to differentiate yourself? And if you truly become the builder of choice, that gives you a competitive advantage. If it were easy, anyone could do it. So this isn't easy to do, although when you look at the 12 issues that we distilled from all this experience, our company goes back now 24 years this year, but the lean process has started 14 years ago. Really listening to these 5,000 supplier and trade firms over the years in an intimate setting, you start to see what really has an impact. When I say there are builders that don't have a trade shortage, that's probably no more than about 2%, seriously, maybe 1 out of 50 nationwide. But we know them, and I'm not going to name names that set them up, but I can tell you any part of the country, just about, I could tell you a name of a builder that is not fighting the trade shortage like everyone else is, because they are so good, do things so well, that the trade still all want to work for them. So let's talk about these 12 elements. And we'll get through them pretty quick on each one. We don't have a lot of time, but I hope it gets you thinking. I'm going to follow up with this, a couple of columns coming up. So the first thing, and this is table stakes. Let's just get this taken care of right now. And that's the fair, quick, on-time payment. If you're paying late, your guys in the field don't have a chance. Your purchasing guys don't have a chance. So if in 30 days, there are some trades that if you're 30 days and really always there on the money, maybe they'll live with that. But these days there are so many builders that pay in 2 weeks, so many that pay in 1 week. Just worked with a builder in Missouri that anything that's approved in by noon end of business on Monday is paid on Friday every time, every time. And if you're paying in 30 days, and God help you if you're paying in 45 or 60 days, you just don't have much of a chance. Even if a lot of other things you do are good, they're not going to finance you. So that's table stakes. You got to do that. The second one, and maybe this should be first, and that is to always treat your suppliers and trades with dignity and respect. No matter how frustrated you get, how mad you get, and sure, yeah, they do some things wrong. I'm not saying that they're perfect, but if you got people on your sites that are screamers and threaten them and throw them around, these days they're just going down the road. You should always treat them with dignity and respect, even in the times when there are plenty of trades out there. I wonder if we'll ever see that again. But this is just table stakes. You have to give them the respect they deserve. If they aren't there, you're not building houses and you aren't making a dime. So that's table stakes also. The third one that ought to be table stakes, but it's absolutely not. It's actually a kind of a rarity. I would say maybe 20% of builders would qualify under this one, and that is clean, safe, organized job sites. And think of it this way, a job site that any realtor who drove potential customers through your site would go, wow, this place, it's clean, it's organized. Yeah, I see there's workers, I see materials, I think things going on. And I understand some things are going to be stacked here and there. You got people building houses, but compared to your average building site, which looks like a train wreck or a tornado went through, that makes a difference. It makes a difference to the realtors, it makes a difference to the prospective customers. It makes a difference to the trades that arrive at your site. Any of you ever have any luck trying to ask one of your teenagers to clean one of your other teenagers' messy bedroom? Ain't going to happen. Thankfully, my youngest are all former 30 or over now, so I'm some years past that. But that never worked and never will work. If your trades arrive at a site that's clean, you can hold them to keeping it clean. But if it gets there when it's dirty, you don't have a chance. And that makes a huge impact on how they see the job, how they see you, on the quality of their work. So it's a line you just have to hold, and it can be done. A lot of people think, oh, if we make them keep the site clean, they're going to go down the road. No, you talk to virtually all of them. If they arrive at a site that's really clean, they're going to make the effort to keep it clean because it's so much better to work there and they can do their jobs better too. Yeah. So that ought to be table stakes, but it's far from it. Number 4, competent, fully trained builder field staff. And we can also say internal staff, such as your people in purchasing, warranty. But the field guys have to be completely competent, trained, and really know their jobs. A strange thing happened after the downturn and we emerged from it. There were a lot of people available. Before the downturn, there were companies like TrueNorth and other companies out there that did tons of training. We actually had, before the big crash 12 years ago, the year before that happened, we had 10,000 students in our training courses that we do. 10,000. This year, now we average maybe a few hundred a year.
Oh boy, what a difference.
Nobody's training anymore because there are so many people available. Well, on one hand, that's good. But when you have 8 superintendents out there, or in the South, often call them builders, or maybe we'll call them project managers, and they're from like 8 different companies, that's problems all on its own. They're doing scheduling differently. No matter what your black box schedule system is, they're all doing their own thing. And the way they work, suppliers and trades are understanding, and it's really hurt the suppliers and trades' ability to keep up with the project and understand. The evidence of that, go no further to look at schedule. Nationwide, schedules are a minimum of 2 months longer than they were before the crash. For many builders, they're 3, 4, even 5 months longer than they used to be. Partly because of the trade shortage. Yet again, there are these builders who have overcome that and are still maintaining those schedules they had before. So that's a big problem. Number 5, quick, easy access to builder personnel, both the external, the field folks, and the internal. When we go out and do our investigations with the lien, and we hear that when people have problems in the field and they have trouble getting a hold of the right people to get their questions answered, that just compounds itself continually. So you got to really challenge your systems. Ideally, your plans are so good, your specifications so good, your schedule's so good that your suppliers and trades don't need to be calling you all the time. That's how it ought to work. And I worked for a couple of guys, 2 of my great mentors, literally more than 30 years ago, and they turn up my columns on a regular basis. Gary Grant, Minneapolis, Mike Rhodes in Chicago. And anybody who's listening to this still, who's around back then, will back me on this. Their suppliers and trades, they rarely had to make a phone call because The plans were nailed, the specifications were nailed, variances were almost non-existent,
Wow.
schedules were absolutely nailed, and the thing that you never saw on our sites back then was scouts, meaning someone from the trade or the supplier is going out to check to see if that house is really ready. That's routine now. 80 to 90% of trades are scouting the houses to see if they're really ready. Okay, back in the Gary Grant and Mike Rhodes days, it was God help you if they heard that one of your trades had to scout your houses to see if it's ready. Now, you can't fix that on the backs of your superintendents. There's all sorts of things upstream from that. If the plans aren't right, specifications, option selections aren't right, it's just going to happen. And then you're having to do these continuous fixes. So that gets us into issues of, they're closely related to 6th and 7th, bid packages and start packages. Bid packages have to be absolutely accurate and complete. Final bid packages. The ones that go out are rarely final. And all you have to do is ask the trades about it, and they will tell you that they make their bid and then things change and change and change. And they're often asked to, come on, you just go along with that bid and we'll make it up to you. You know, help me out here. They're right eventually. Eventually, everything is nailed down. So we have to learn and commit ourselves and make it an absolute gateway that those bid packages are 100% finalized and accurate. Okay, and they have to have final plans, which rarely happens at the bid package stage. Then you go to start packages. Start package, matter of fact, years ago, Bill Pulte called the start package the Bible. And Bill is a very religious man. He did not say that lightly. Bill would say, he gives these training work. He'd say there's the Old Testament, the New Testament, and there's the Pulte start package. Really. And that was, he says, we call it the Bible. And people routinely in the field, they said, well, let me check the Bible. When I first heard that, I said, what? Well, what's supposed to be in the Province 2 model, number 2307 on lot 176. So let me check the Bible for that house. Oh, okay. And that was standard. They probably don't use that term anymore, but Bill did it so you realized how he would say this. He'd say, it needs to be as if God wrote it. It's that good. So your suppliers and trades can 100% depend on it. They know what to order. They know how many people have to be there. Everything is nailed down. And you can't get a good start package if you don't have a good bid package. And you can't do that if you don't have really great plans complete with construction drawings. So those are critical. These are things that make a difference to a trade. You get with a trade and sit down and you give them the situation where, okay, one builder has these things, another builder doesn't. Which one are you going to give the tightest bid to? Well, it's obvious, except most builders aren't thinking this way. Any builder who listens right now and is not doing complete lot-specific construction drawings and thinks you're saving a dime, you are kidding yourself. You're costing yourselves money, because without those, your trades and your suppliers will not bid you as tightly, because they have to be careful or they'll get burnt. So having those is absolutely critical. It's also the issue is who's going to send you their best crews. Any of you who've worked in the field know having the best crews makes all the difference in the world. It's not like, a framer is a framer, a guy, banging tin in the HVAC. They aren't all the same. They're real different. No one would ever say in a quarterbacks in the NFL, they're all the same. I mean, love them or hate them. Look what Tom Brady did. He goes to Tampa Bay, and they turn into a winner. I mean, that's a lot different than, I always think of Rex Grossman, who's a great guy, nice guy, Tim Tebow, wonderful guy, but they're not not the same. So getting those best crews means everything, and you have to earn them. You can't demand them. You have to earn them. So you got to think as a builder every Monday morning, think about who are my trades sending their best crews to? They all have, some crews are better than others. Who are their best? Who's getting them and why? It's not random. It's not just luck of the draw. They send their best crews to the best builders. And the best builders are doing these things we're talking about in order to earn the best crews. I actually separate out as number 8 this issue of final plans with construction drawings. I could put it before there. These really aren't in order, but I did that to really emphasize it, because people will tend to kind of blow by that. You know, the ever-changing plans, it happens all the time. You've got to hold the line on that. Make your decisions, do your marketing work, and get them nailed down. 9, we've talked about some already because it's dependent on these earlier issues. Reliable construction schedule with lead time and no scouting. But here's the point about number 9. If we don't have these things I said earlier, the fully trained, competent builder staff who are 100% up on whatever system you have, the bid packages are right, the start packages are right. If you don't have those things right, you can't maintain your schedule, because you have continual changes going on, and then variances coming through continually. So it's absolutely critical. And then we get down to variance. Some people call them VPOs, variance purchase order, but then there's, you know, FPOs, field purchase order, EPOs, exception purchase order. Some people just call it variance, whatever you call it. It's anything that you have to pay for after that house starts. There are builders who fool themselves into calling a certain number of options and selections just part of their standard procedure, but those are happening after the house starts. And that's the first step you got to take. After that house starts, anything that comes through is a variance. I don't care if it was the first selection for the color of the carpet. It's still a variance, because when you're doing it after that house starts, it takes more time, more errors result, more things go wrong. Now, here's the thing, and you might remember about 3 years ago now, I wrote a series of articles about variance.
Right.
And I'll tell the audience here, after the 4th one I wrote, I was going to write one, Denise called me and said, Scott, you can't do a 5th one. And I wanted to, you got to change the topic. Okay. But I wasn't done. It is a massive issue. And one of the things I said in there, and most of the builders still do not believe it, there are hardly any builders in America that measure variance fully, accurately, completely. I've met maybe 2 that do. And I've worked, to my guess, is with as many builders as anybody in the country over the last 30, and my 4th decade doing it. And what they're missing, I'll just say it up front, is the overhead, the indirects, the process. If you look at when the variances come through, they get approved, they have labor materials. Occasionally you might see something for an extra trip, rarely for the extra trip. But all the overhead, the indirects, which hit internal to the builder and to the supplier and to the trade, those often add up to more than the labor materials, sometimes at a significant factor. Those virtually never get charged through. And that means when people will say, oh, we're doing great, we got a 1% variance. Well, it's not accurate. It's higher than that. A lot of builders have 3%, 4%. We worked with a big name builder, and I'll just say in recent years, somewhere far away, that was running a 4.5% variance. And when we got done looking at it, it was closer to 8% in the true impact. And they started to understand why their margins were about 1/3 of where they want them to be.
I bet.
So, yeah, and but they got it through their heads, and they really started working on it. So variance is absolutely critical. And, you know, the trades may not call it this, but if we got 2 builders and one's running, let's say, a true 1% variance and one's running 3%, the impact that has on those suppliers and trades is massive, and it makes a big difference building choice. So here's one thing builders got to accept right now. No matter what you're paying them, suppliers and trades never make money on variance. There might be one here and there that ends up being profitable for them, but because of the things we're not measuring, it's costing them money too. So we got to work hard on that. Number 11, back charges. One of my favorite builders, DSLD, and I'm careful not to name names usually, but Son Sullivan, the president company, he says, you tell anybody, we don't care. Son used to do presentations at IBS, and he quit doing them because he said nobody listens. They're going to do, I think they did 3,800 last year units. And we started working with them. I think they were doing 800. So they've only been out there about 12 years.
Right.
Amazing company. They've never done a variance. I mean, they've never done a back charge. And so they've probably built now, if you have 10 years, so they've had to build something over 25, maybe 30,000 homes in the last 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
They've never done a variance. Their system doesn't even know how to if they would want to. And they said all they do anytime anything goes wrong is they talk with the trades and the suppliers and say, what happened? Why did it happen? How can we prevent that from happening again? Because they want to make sure it's not pointing fingers, blame. So if someone breaks a window in a kitchen and, oh my God, the customers are going to come through the next day, or a realtor is going to come out of whatever, that they get it fixed right away. So elimination of back charges, it costs everybody money. And if you can't see yourself to eliminate it, you got to get it to a minimum. And some of you are thinking, yeah, but then how do you hold these guys accountable? Well, if you got the trades that you have to hold them accountable by back charging, then you got to work on finding different trades.
Yeah.
People can do it, and you can't tell me you can't, because again, we know people doing 4,000 units a year, and they're very profitable, and they build great houses, and their customers love them, as do their suppliers and trades. So yes, it can be done. We've met a few other builders, not very many, small handful. Finally, and this is one that even most of the best builders are missing, and that is early input on plans and specifications from suppliers and trades. When you're developing a new model, to really get them in and get their input before you ever put that first yard of concrete in the ground, before the first stick goes up. We see this constantly when we'll see something that's gone wrong, and you ask the framer, if you'd had a chance to really review those plans beforehand, would you have caught that? 90% of the time, whichever trade you have will say, yes, I would have caught that, would have said something. And then you do it on an ongoing basis, because if you have a plan that's 3, 4, 5 years old, just try this and you'll call me and thank me. Even if you don't have good methodology, you can do it. You bring them in, and don't do them all at once. Do front end, back end, or at least do it with your foundation frame and your free mechanicals. Walk a house that's in the framing stage with mechanicals before the insulation and drywall goes on. Every single time, those 5 trades with some of your guys that have purchasing and construction together will find things, improve that house, and save everybody money. Every single time it works. Now, I want you to back up and even do that before you build that model too. So 12 things. They sound like common sense, but as my favorite professor I used to have, the late Dr. Douglas, he would say it's not common sense. Because if it was common, there'd be a hell of a lot more going on around here. So never forget that. Dr. Douglas had a lot of great sayings like that. And it's true. We see bits and pieces of this going on. A builder does 3 of these. Another builder does 4 of them. One builder does 2 of them. We see some builders that do 6 or 8 of them. A very small handful that really do all of these. And these guys, they don't have trade shortage. They're making great money. Their trades are profitable. Their trades give them the best crews. They give them the best prices, because they're more profitable working with the builders that follow these elements than working with other builders who don't. Sounds easy for me to say, harder for you to do, but it's absolutely doable. If I hadn't seen it done by so many builders, I couldn't say this.
Yep, that's the key. It can be done. Yep.
So to emphasize again, we didn't, my team, we didn't make this stuff up. We got this from all these years of watching thousands of suppliers and trades give feedback to builders, and watching the really great builders and seeing what works. And from those builders where the stuff does work, this is our summary of it.
And if our readers of ProBuilder want to read the issue, it's the May-June issue. So they're welcome to read the story that you've written about this. But I understand you've got a part 2, right?
Part 2 will be the online version, which is, I think, July officially. It's a little confusing how we do that. But the follow one, and if you want me to send those directly, our company is TrueNorth. So we go by TrueN, TRUN.com, and you can do scott@truen.com or just info@truen.com and send a request, and we'll send you the articles. We're going to put together a PDF. There'll actually probably be 6 or 7 of them on this topic, some from the previous editions, but these will probably be the first 2, and we'll send you that, and I hope it's helpful to you.
I'm sure it will be. Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate your taking the time to do this with us. And thanks for the story, and thanks for this video of it. I hope a lot of people will see it and take advantage of it. It'll change their lives, I have a feeling.
It'll be a competitive advantage if you do it. So go for it. And thanks, Denise. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.